1923 Season 2 reveals the first victim of Yellowstone's infamous train station. Shortly after showing the origin of Yellowstone's train station, 1923 Season 2 revealed who the first person buried there was. Yellowstone's train station is one of the most infamous parts of the show. It's a small piece of land on the border between Montana and Wyoming that has a population of 0, making it the perfect place to dump a body. The Dutton family tree has evidently been using the train station for generations as well, and they've killed anybody who threatened their ranch and disposed of their bodies at the train station for over a century. 1923 revealed the origins of the train station in Episode 4, and by the ending of 1923 Season 2, Episode 5, it had already shown the first person to be dumped there. Donald Whitfield, Timothy Dalton, discovered the train station while he was looking at zoning maps of the area and noticed one parcel of land with no inhabitants. He deduced that it would be impossible to prosecute a crime committed in that area. Surprisingly, he got a chance to test out his theory almost as soon as he found it. And 1923 got a chance to show the first visitor to the train station. The first person whose corpse was ever disposed of at the train station was Christy Kalen Rice, one of the sex workers Donald Whitfield hired. Christy died after Lindy, Madison Elise Rogers, strangled her too hard during sex, and Whitfield ordered Banner Creighton to dispose of her body in the newfound train station. It was a continuation of Whitfield's most controversial story in 1923, but it also gave the Duttons a prime opportunity to take the knowledge of the train station for themselves. Clearly, they made good use of it in the following century leading up to Yellowstone. After 5 seasons of Yellowstone, and now 1923, the bodies deposited at the train station have begun to pile up, both metaphorically and literally. There's no telling the exact number of people who have been disposed of at the train station, but since the Duttons have been using it for 100 years, it's safe to say there's a veritable graveyard down there. Additionally, Christie's death marks the 8th time the Yellowstone franchise has thrown somebody into the train station. Other notable members of the club include Wade Morrow, a Yellowstone Season 3 antagonist, and Jamie Dutton, who joined at the end of Yellowstone. It's also worth noting that while the Yellowstone franchise has only shown 8 people getting on the long black train, it's likely not done yet. There's a very good chance that Whitfield will go to the train station in 1923 Season 2, as he likely has to die for the Duttons to maintain control of the Yellowstone. Additionally, Taylor Sheridan has several upcoming Yellowstone spin-offs, and while the Duttons don't own the ranch anymore, they'll always have enemies who need to be disposed of. The list of victims taken to the train station likely won't end with 1923 Season 2. As 1923 Season 2 unfolds, the history of the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch grows even darker, revealing the origins of one of its most notorious legends, the infamous train station. For years, fans of Yellowstone have speculated about the first soul to disappear into the abyss of that unmarked graveyard, where justice is served Dutton style. Now at last, the truth emerges in stunning fashion, linking the past to the present in ways no one could have foreseen. The season begins with Jacob and Kara Dutton struggling to maintain their hold on the ranch after the events of the first season. The range war has left them scarred, and new threats emerge from every direction. But in the midst of external chaos, an internal betrayal festers, one that will cement the need for the train station as a tool of justice. The first victim is not a cattle thief, nor an outsider looking to take the Dutton land. It is instead one of their own. Timothy Flynn, a trusted ranch hand, becomes the unwitting pioneer of this grim legacy. Flynn, an Irish immigrant with a rough past, had been taken in by Jacob Dutton years prior. He worked the land, broke horses, and fought alongside the Duttons during their fiercest battles. But unbeknownst to Jacob, Timothy had a secret ambition to own a piece of the empire he helped build, even if it meant betraying the family who had given him everything. Flynn's transgressions begin small. He starts pocketing a few head of cattle here and there, branding them under a false name and selling them off in nearby towns. His theft is methodical, and for a time, it goes unnoticed. But greed is an insatiable beast, and soon Flynn graduates from rustling to something far more dangerous, colluding with Banner Creighton's remaining allies. In exchange for a stake in the Dutton land, Flynn provides inside information on cattle movements, supply routes, and even the vulnerabilities of the Yellowstone Ranch itself. It is Kara Dutton who first suspects something amiss. The books don't add up. Supplies go missing. And then there is the ambush. A carefully orchestrated attack on a shipment of cattle leaves 2 Dutton men dead, their bodies left as a warning. The only way the attackers could have known the route was if someone on the inside had given them the information. Jacob, hardened by war and betrayal, begins his quiet investigation. When the truth surfaces, the betrayal cuts deep. Timothy Flynn, the man who had once called Jacob his mentor, is caught in the act, accepting payment for his treachery. The rage in Jacob's eyes is unrelenting, but it is not blind. This is not the first time he has dealt with betrayal, and it will not be the last. Flynn is dragged back to the ranch, bound and beaten. The other ranch hands watch in silence, their faces grim, as Jacob and his nephew, Jack Dutton, deliberate on what must be done. Kara, ever the voice of reason, pleads for exile, banishment, not bloodshed. But Jacob knows better. A man like Flynn would not stay away. He would return with more men, more guns, and more hatred. And so the decision is made. In the dead of night, a small party rides westward, Flynn at the center, hands tied, his face swollen with regret, and the realization that there will be no reprieve. The landscape changes as they move deeper into the mountains, where the land is unmarked and forgotten by the world. Flynn, trembling, begins to beg. He swears he was missiled, that he meant no harm. But Jacob Dutton is unmoved. He tells Flynn a story, one of loyalty, sacrifice, and the price of betrayal. Men who cross this family don't get second chances, Jacob says, his voice cold as the night air. This land has its own rules, and you broke them. Flynn's pleas turn into sobs, then screams. But there is no one to hear him. The horses halt near a ravine, one deep and hidden beneath the shadows of the towering pines. Jacob nods to Jack, who draws his gun. A single shot rings out. The sound is swallowed by the endless stretch of wilderness. The first soul to be claimed by the train station has been delivered. Jacob and his men cover the body, ensuring that Flynn's final resting place remains undiscovered. There are no markers, no names, only silence. As they ride back to the ranch, Jacob says nothing. He does not relish what has been done, nor does he regret it. This is the cost of protecting the Yellowstone. And so the legend of the train station begins, a legacy of justice that will echo through generations of Duttons to come.